Holy Lord, I have sinned times without number, and been guilty of pride and unbelief, of failure to find thy mind in thy word, of neglect to seek thee in my daily life. My transgressions and shortcomings present me with a list of accusations, but I bless thee that they will not stand against me, for all have been laid on Christ. Go on to subdue my corruptions, and grant me grace to live above them. Let not the passions of the flesh nor lustings of the mind bring my spirit into subjection, but do thou rule over me in liberty and power. I thank thee that many of my prayers have been refused. I have asked amiss and do not have. I have prayed from lusts and been rejected. I have longed for Egypt and have been given a wilderness. Go on with thy patient work, answering no to my wrongful prayers and fitting me to accept it. Purge me from every false desire, every base aspiration, everything contrary to thy rule. I thank thee for thy wisdom and thy love, for all the acts of discipline to which I am subject, for sometimes putting me into the furnace to refine my gold and remove my dross. No trial is so hard to bear as a sense of sin. If thou should give me choice to live in pleasure and keep my sins, or to have them burnt away with trial, give me sanctified affliction. Deliver me from every evil habit, every accretion of former sins, everything that dims the brightness of thy grace in me, everything that prevents me from taking delight in thee. Then I shall bless thee, God of Jeshurun, for helping me to be upright. Amen. Good morning. It is Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. This morning we are looking at Ezra chapter 2. And what you're going to see here is a long list of different families, different people, different cities full of people that came out of Babylon, heading back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple and reestablish their lives there. Several thousand. I think Matthew Henry said it was around 40-some thousand people that came up out of there. At least the men that are listed. We see the Levites, the priests, sons of Asaph, the men of Bethlehem, the sons of Bani, the sons of Bebai, the sons of Era, and on and on and on the list goes. It could read like one of those chapters from the book of Numbers, right, with all the genealogies and lists of people. And when we read through it and we just breeze right through it, we can lose sight of the significance of things like this in Scripture. This is definitely not the glamorous chapter. It's not like the story of David and Goliath or the empty tomb. But there is something in here for us. All of these people that came up out of Babylon, out of captivity, they had their names recorded here. And Matthew Henry was saying, and I agree with him, that this has significance just in the fact that their posterity, their children and their children's children who came after them would have been able to look at this and know who their family lineage was. And this was kind of not only a roll call, but just a picture of God's faithfulness to rescue his people from captivity. Turn over for a moment the book of Revelation. There's coming a day when we stand before God and our heart's desires is that our names are recorded as well. Okay. Revelation 13 verse 8 says, all who dwell on the earth will worship him, everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain. There's a book of life from which the roll is going to be called. And again, look at Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. It says, and I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from the things which were written in the books according to their deeds. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them, and they were judged, every one of them according to their deeds. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. So there is a significance to having your name recorded. And we can look at this passage in Ezra, and we can blow right past it, and we can, yawn at it. And or we can look at it as being maybe a picture of that Lamb's book of life, and how Jesus will not lose a single one of those whom the Father has given him. And our names have been recorded, who we are, all of our deeds. Did we trust in the Lord or not? Did we have faith? After this roll call of sorts, if you look at verse 68, it says, some of the heads of the fathers' households, when they arrived at the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem, offered willingly for the house of God to restore it on its foundation. According to their ability, they gave to the treasury for the work. So, as these men and women and families, these households came out of Babylon, they gave willingly. They gave as they were able, according to their abilities, according to their skills and talents and resources and gifts. They gave to rebuild the house of the Lord. And there's a little something in there for us as well. God blesses us. He grants us. He blesses us with gifts and talents and resources and time. And how often do we give willingly from those things? How often do we give willingly compared to when we just feel compelled, or we feel like we have to do it because it's our duty? Now, there is something to be said about doing your duty, and don't get me wrong about that. That's a good thing, to do your duty. But when it's always under compulsion, right? God doesn't want us giving under compulsion. He wants us to be cheerful givers, into uh, giving should be a joyful occasion, should it not? If you have to be compelled and coerced and tricked and drug along to give from things that God has blessed you with, talents and resources and such, it reveals something about your heart. And so I guess if there's anything we ought to maybe glean from this passage today, it's these two things. One, consider the question of whether or not your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Because when the roll is called up yonder, that's where you want your name written. Okay, that's where you want your name recorded. And the only way that happens is if you've been born again and you've called upon the name of the Lord. The Bible says that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So that's one. Is your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life? Is your name recorded for all of eternity in that book? And then two, are you using your gifts and talents and resources that God has blessed you with, your time? Are you using these things for the glory of God willingly? Do you desire to please God and obey him? And do you recognize that everything you have has been given to you? You're a steward of it, right? Your gifts and your talents and your resources and your time, you're a steward of that. It's meant to bring God glory. It's meant to glorify him. It's meant to exalt him. And so are you using those things for his glory willingly as a cheerful giver? I pray you have a blessed day today. I love you all very much. And make the best use of your time today. The days are evil. God bless you all. Bye-bye.